당신이 가장 편리한 시간에
At your earliest convenience. At your earliest convenience. At your earliest convenience.
정책, 방침 등 따라서
In accordance with. In accordance with. In accordance with.
결합해서
In conjunction with. In conjunction with. In conjunction with.
고려 중인
Under consideration. Under consideration. Under consideration.
불강조하다,
Place an emphasis on. Place an emphasis on. Place an emphasis on.
친숙해지다,
Be acquainted with. Be acquainted with. Be acquainted with.
작은 것에 대해서도 세심한 주의,
Attention to detail. Attention to detail. Attention to detail.
늦어도
At the latest. At the latest. At the latest.
늦어도까지,
No later than. No later than. No later than.
선착순으로
On a first come, first served basis. On a first come, first served basis. On a first come, first served basis.
을 적어놓다,
Make a note of. Make a note of. Make a note of.
독립적인,
The independent of. The independent of. The independent of.
대표하는
Be representative of. Be representative of. Be representative of.
반영하는
Be reflective of. Be reflective of. Be reflective of.
나타내는
Be indicative of. Be indicative of. Be indicative of.
포함하는
Be inclusive of. Be inclusive of. Be inclusive of.
감사하는
Be appreciative of. Be appreciative of. Be appreciative of.
배려하는
Be considerate of. Be considerate of. Be considerate of.
인식하는
Be aware of. Be aware of. Be aware of.
지지해주는
Be supportive of. Be supportive of. Be supportive of.
예상함으로 인해서
In anticipation of. In anticipation of. In anticipation of.
준비하기 위해서
In preparation for. In preparation for. In preparation for.
인정하여
In recognition of. In recognition of. In recognition of.
을 축하하여
In celebration of. In celebration of. In celebration of.
하는 경향이 있는
Be prone to V. Be prone to V. Be prone to V.
할 준비가 되어 있는
Be poised to V. Be poised to V. Be poised to V.
가까운 미래에
In the foreseeable future. In the foreseeable future. In the foreseeable future.
대표해서
On behalf of. On behalf of. On behalf of.
기념일을 맞이하다
Mark the anniversary. Mark the anniversary. Mark the anniversary.
효력을 발휘하다
Take effect. Take effect. Take effect.
하기 위한 노력으로
In an effort to. In an effort to. In an effort to.
시기적절하게, 적절한 방식으로,
In a timely manner. In a timely manner. In a timely manner.
결과로서,
As a result of. As a result of. As a result of.
추후 통지가 있을 때까지,
Until further notice. Until further notice. Until further notice.
하는 것이 면제된다.
Be exempt from. Be exempt from. Be exempt from.
대해서 친숙하다.
Be familiar with. Be familiar with. Be familiar with.
책임지다.
Be held accountable for. Be held accountable for. Be held accountable for.
호환하다, 일치하다.
Be compatible with. Be compatible with. Be compatible with.
대해 비판적이다.
Be critical of. Be critical of. Be critical of.
영향받기 쉽다 하는 것이 필요된다.
Be subject to. Be subject to. Be subject to.
협력하다.
Collaborate on, with. Collaborate on, with. Collaborate on, with.
어를 비타스로 돌리다.
Attribute A to B. Attribute A to B. Attribute A to B.
처분하다.
Dispose of. Dispose of. Dispose of.
규칙, 법규, 정책 등을 따르다.
Comply with. Comply with. Comply with.
인계받다.
Take over. Take over. Take over.
책임 등을 떠맡다.
Take on. Take on. Take on.
설명하다, 차지하다, 원인이 되다.
Account for. Account for. Account for.
에 대해 책임을 지다.
Be held accountable for. Be held accountable for. Be held accountable for.
규칙적으로,
On a regular basis. On a regular basis. On a regular basis.
추천으로,
On the recommendation of. On the recommendation of. On the recommendation of.
의 제안으로,
At the suggestion of. At the suggestion of. At the suggestion of.
요구로,
At the urging of. At the urging of. At the urging of.
어느 정도까지,
To some extent. To some extent. To some extent.
품절된,
Out of stock. Out of stock. Out of stock.
구시대,
Out of date. Out of date. Out of date.
시내에 없는,
Out of town. Out of town. Out of town.
어에게 B를 축하하다.
Congratulate A on B. Congratulate A on B. Congratulate A on B.
에 상관없이,
Regardless of. Regardless of. Regardless of.
을 준수하여,
In observance of. In observance of. In observance of.
기념하기 위해서,
in honor of, in honor of, in honor of.
를 할 수 있다.
Be capable of, be capable of, be capable of.
최대한 잘 활용하다.
Make the most of, make the most of, make the most of.
에 의존하다. 달려있다.
Depend on, depend on, depend on.
양식 등의 내용을 채우다.
Fill in, fill in, fill in.
을배부하다.
Give out, give out, give out.
자세히.
In detail, in detail, in detail.
통과하다.
Get through, get through, get through.
로부턴 알짜나 시간.
As of, as of, as of.
와 관련되다.
Be associated with, be associated with, be associated with.
애따.
As per, as per, as per.
를 전문으로 하다.
Specialize in, specialize in, specialize in.
수입과 지출을 맞추다.
Balance out, balance out, balance out.
후속 조치를 취하다.
Follow up, follow up, follow up.
배제시키다.
Leave out, leave out, leave out.
호전시키다.
Turn around, turn around, turn around.
을이용하다.
Make use of, make use of, make use of.
뒤처지다.
Lag behind, lag behind, lag behind.
을동반하다.
Accompanied by, accompanied by, accompanied by.
수송 중에.
In transit, in transit, in transit.
을 통해.
By way of, by way of, by way of.
소유자의 비용으로.
At one's expense, at one's expense, at one's expense.
되돌려주다.
Give back, give back, give back.
나누어주다.
Hand out, hand out, hand out.
의사의 처방전이 없이 팔리는.
Over the counter, over the counter, over the counter.
약을 먹다.
Take a dose, take a dose, take a dose.
근무 중에.
On duty, on duty, on duty.
놀랄만한 일은 아니다.
Come as no surprise, come as no surprise, come as no surprise.
고려하다.
Take into consideration, take into consideration, take into consideration.
실행하다.
Put into practice, put into practice, put into practice.
잘 작동하는.
In working order, in working order, in working order.
칭찬하다.
Speak highly of, speak highly of, speak highly of.
출발하다, 설명하다.
set forth, set forth, set forth.
어떠한 역할을 하다.
Play a role, part in. Play a role, part in. Play a role, part in.
표시로서,
As a token of, as a token of, as a token of.
선택의 폭이 넓은, 다양한.
A selection of, a selection of, a selection of.
완전히 함께 딸려 있다.
Come complete with, come complete with, come complete with.
통합되어지다.
Be integrated into, be integrated into, be integrated into.
아직까지 하지 않다.
Have yet to be, have yet to be, have yet to be.
라고 불리다.
Be referred to as, be referred to as, be referred to as.
칭찬하다.
Speak highly favorably of, speak highly favorably of, speak highly favorably of.
할 것 같다.
Be likely to be, be likely to be, be likely to be.
포함하다.
Fall within, fall within, fall within.
일치하다.
Coincide with, coincide with, coincide with.
할 예정이다.
Be slated to be, be slated to be, be slated to be.
연속으로.
In a row, in a row, in a row.
줄지어 늘어선.
Row after row, row after row, row after row.
권리를 보유하다.
Reserve the right, reserve the right, reserve the right.
주의를 기울이다.
Exercise caution, exercise caution, exercise caution.
항상.
At all times, at all times, at all times.
일주일 전에 공지를 주다.
Give a week's notice, give a week's notice, give a week's notice.
인기가 있다.
Be popular with, be popular with, be popular with.
손상된 상태로 도착하다.
Arrive damaged, arrive damaged, arrive damaged.
영향을 미치다.
Have an impact, influence slash effect on. Have an impact, influence slash effect on. Have an impact, influence slash effect on.
주재하다.
Preside over, preside over, preside over.
허락하다. 감안하다. 참작하다.
Allow for, allow for, allow for.
어에게 B를 알리다.
Inform A of B, inform A of B, inform A of B.
따르다. 준수하다.
Conform to, conform to, conform to.
발판을 다지다.
Gain a foothold, gain a foothold, gain a foothold.
그러한 취지로.
To the effect, to the effect, to the effect.
고려되다.
Be factored in into, be factored in into, be factored in into.
고수하다. 충실히 지키다.
Adhere to, adhere to, adhere to.
논평하다.
Comment on, comment on, comment on.
실험하다.
experiment with, experiment with, experiment with,
환불 교환이 안 됨.
the sale is final, the sale is final, the sale is final,
응답으로,
in response to, in response to, in response to,
하려고 시도하다.
seek to be, seek to be, seek to be,
제안을 하다.
offer to be, offer to be, offer to be,
도움으로, 수단으로,
by means of by means of by means of
어를 한 후 비가 뒤따르다.
be followed by be followed by be followed by be,
순조롭게 되어지다.
go smoothly, go smoothly, go smoothly,
할 권리가 있다.
be entitled to be entitled to be entitled to be,
기대에 부응하다.
live up to one's expectation, live up to one's expectation, live up to one's expectation,
자격이 있다.
be eligible to V or for, be eligible to V or for, be eligible to V or for,
없애다.
be clear of, be clear of, be clear of,
하는 한에서,
insofar as, insofar as, insofar as,
대신에,
in place of, in place of, in place of,
이러한 관점에서,
in this respect, in this respect, in this respect,
즉시 시작으로,
effective immediately, effective immediately, effective immediately,
도움으로 의해서,
by means of, by means of, by means of,
표시로,
as a token of, as a token of, as a token of,
기념하여,
in honor of, in honor of, in honor of,
대표해서,
on behalf of, on behalf of, on behalf of,
처음부터,
from scratch, from scratch, from scratch,
승진하다.
work one's way up, work one's way up, work one's way up,
석박사 학위,
advanced degree, advanced degree, advanced degree,
결산하다.
balance the books, balance the books, balance the books,
단 한 번도 하지 않다.
at no time, at no time, at no time,
돋보이게 하다.
stand out, stand out, stand out,
구별하다. 로부터 알다.
tell from, tell from, tell from,
보류하는.
on hold, on hold, on hold,
가까이에 있는. 준비되어 있는.
on hand, on hand, on hand,
계획대로 되어가는.
on track, on track, on track,
임의로 하다.
take the liberty of, take the liberty of, take the liberty of.
가득 차다.
Burst with, burst with, burst with.
예상하다, 요청하다.
Call for, call for, call for.
비율로,
In proportion to, in proportion to, in proportion to.
예방하다, 막다.
Ward off, ward off, ward off.
중단하다, 끊다.
Cut off, cut off, cut off.
에 전념하다.
Be committed to ing, be committed to ing, be committed to ing.
에 익숙하다.
Be used to ing, be used to ing, be used to ing.
응답하다.
Respond to tilde, ing, respond to tilde, ing, respond to tilde, ing.
반응하다.
React to tilde, ing, react to tilde, ing, react to tilde, ing.
이것 외에도
In addition to tilde, ing, in addition to tilde, ing, in addition to tilde, ing.
하기 전에
Prior to tilde, ing, prior to tilde, ing, prior to tilde, ing.
학수고대하다.
Look forward to ing, look forward to ing, look forward to ing.
영향을 받기 쉽다. 필요된다.
Be subject to tilde, ing, be subject to tilde, ing, be subject to tilde, ing.
애기여하다.
Contribute to ing, contribute to ing, contribute to ing.
하기를 고대하다.
Look forward to ing, look forward to ing, look forward to ing.
애반대하다.
Object to ing, object to ing, object to ing.
을이끌다.
Lead to ing, lead to ing, lead to ing.